Alright guys, so this is going to be a quick installation video on the AFE intake scoop for the N55, especially for the F chassis. So this is what it looks like. It's pretty basic, pretty big piece of plastic. This is how it compares to the iDrive screen. It's like quite a bit taller. So that will go behind the grill and right in front of the radiator to improve airflow to the intake. So I'm going to show you how to install it. First, you want to open up your hood. Basically where this piece fits in is it goes right in front, right here basically, and it scoops more air into your intake. So first thing we're gonna need to do is to take off the front portion of the bumper, not the whole bumper, but just kind of like let it hang. So you want to take off this weather stripping right here, just pull up slightly from the edges and then it'll come off. Just want to leave that somewhere. It doesn't matter where you're gonna put it back on, and I'm pretty sure these are T25 Torx bits, so you're gonna have to unscrew all of them. So AFE did provide a manual with this, and it has some nice pictures. According to the manual, it says that there's 5 T25 screws, so I'm guessing those are the inner screws, and then the edges, like here, I think those are T20s. So we're gonna have to remove all of those. Then we're gonna have to remove that little filter in the back. Then we put the actual scoop on, put the filter back, and then put that fastener in. And then everything goes back together with the grill. Alright, so next we're gonna have to kind of pull back this bumper. So if you see this tab right here, there should also be a corresponding tab on the other side. And then you also see this where the headlight kind of goes over. So basically what we want to do is just kind of slide this out slowly, starting from the edge and then working our way to the other. So now you see that it's loose, and that will give us enough wiggle room to get our hands behind and remove the grill. Finally got the grill out right here. It took quite a while. The hard part was actually getting these tabs off. So if you can see all these little tabs right here. Okay, so if you see here, there's these many different little holes where these clips go into. There's 1, 2, 3 at the bottom, 1 at the side, and there's also 3 corresponding at the top, and then 1 on the other side. So with this grill, what I had to do was, as I showed, remove the top portion of the bumper, reach my hand under so I could unclip these 3 first. Right? After I unclipped one, you kind of want to, I'll show you on the second go. So after you unclip one, you can kind of do it like this too, like by reaching around, but I found that a little difficult. So after you unclip one, you want to hold pressure without letting it slide in and get the next one, because once you try to go for the next clip, the first one's going to try to slide back in again with the force. And also you want to make sure that you're kind of holding the top of the bumper frame there, because it's only held by this little metal, this little piece in the middle, which is connecting the whole thing together. So you don't want to break that. So yeah, just basically I'd say start from the outer edge, like right here. Press this down. I suggest wearing gloves because it kind of hurts pressing with your finger. So press that down, right? And then you keep on holding it here. Pull that one and then hold it in the middle, and then take that one and then go to the sides, and then finally go for the bottom. It's not much of a gap for my finger to actually pull up that clip. So what I tried to do was use some metal piece. No idea where it went now, but it was basically like a hooked metal piece, almost like an Allen wrench. So you can kind of like pull it out like that. Just make sure not to scratch that or break that, because it's metal and that's plastic. Alright, the next order of business is to remove this little piece. If you see that right there, the way I figured out by just reaching in there is, if you see this rubber grommet, I don't know if you can see that, but this little rubber piece here, it kind of has 2 holes in it in which these slot into. You want to use this tab. Okay, so you want to use this tab right here, pull on it. It's quite strong, so just, you can do whatever. So pull on that tab really hard, and then use your other hand to kind of push these tabs out of the rubber grommet, and it should come out. And the idea is to put this over the AFE intake scoop after we put that on. So you can see that I finally managed to get it in. It's pretty weird to get in because honestly it doesn't look like it's gonna fit. I don't know what it was bumping into, maybe this V-brace or the top here. But I finally managed to get it sit. It was a little difficult, but nearly not as difficult as removing the grill. So after that, I don't know if you can see, but there is a bunch of rubber grommet. Like, you have to basically get that rubber grommet to fit over of the AFE intake seal. Alright, so if you can see that those little tabs and holes right there, it kind of goes over. So that's a pretty close-up look. And if you see that little hole in the corner, that's where we have to put in this final piece, which is this little self-tapping, whatever it is. So that goes in there, and before that we have to put in this mesh. Alright, so it took a little while, but I finally got it in. And if you can see, I kind of had to play around with the rubber grommet. Finally got that hardware little self-tapping thing in right here. That wasn't that hard. You just have to hold this up, and it kind of sits well. I don't know. I think hopefully it'll stay on. But with this, I had to really play around with it. This rubber piece right here. And remember I was telling you about this. I highly recommend using one of these, because if you can see those little holes in where that plastic grill piece slotted into, and the rubber gasket had holes in it for that to slide into, I kind of use this to pull up on those holes. So imagine this is the rubber hole. I kind of use that to give me leverage, then push the plastic hole in, and it went in nicely. It took a little while to get it to fit, but it fits and seems decently solid. It's actually moving this whole entire bottom piece. So yeah, I'd say that was pretty successful. This is probably the most satisfying part, putting the grill back on. I think I'm gonna replace these with the single slab black grills. I think the double side is a little too much, so just line everything up and you can just push it back in. And if you remember how hard this was to take out, you basically undid all of that, and I don't think it'll ever come out again. See, it's pulling the whole bumper, pretty solid, everything looks good. Now I just need to torque these all down, close the hood, and we're good. So I forgot to mention, before torquing everything down, make sure it does slot in to every one of these notches, especially under the headlight. Make sure it's all very tight, and then you can start screwing down. So I forgot to mention, one last step is to put back the resin stripping we took off in the beginning of the video. So right here I forgot to put it back on, and it kind of sticks out the side of the car when I close the hood. This is what the final product looks like from the outside. It doesn't really have an appearance, it's just there and you won't really notice it. It almost looks like it's OEM. After going for a drive, I noticed that the throttle response was slightly improved, meaning that when I stepped on the throttle there was less turbo lag and the car would actually get going quicker, but I didn't really hear any sound improvement. So it was worth it, but how much of a difference it made I can't really say for sure.